Hi, and welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Good morning. Here we are. How's it going?
It's going really good. It's a good day.
Good day. It's 8 o'clock in the morning for us. So yeah, it's a good day so far.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
We're going to hold that
Not
intention.
even aware of what's going on yet.
Yeah, we're going to hold that intention that it's just going to be an amazing day all day.
That's
The
right.
way it
Period.
is. Oh, so anything coming up these days? It's been a week, the inauguration's today. So we recording on Wednesday, January 20th. So the inauguration. So we want to, even though you're not going to see this till the next day, the 21st or after that, just still holding space and being in that loving space for our nation and even what's happening around the world. It's very important that we hold that vision. So I don't want to get all mushy and sentimental about that. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, which I think is awesome. And I think it's just, see how things roll out. And it kind of reminds me of having faith. And I woke up last night. For me, sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's either I know I'm to pray or else it's not
Or
it's
go
not something
pee.
I have to do. I feel guided to do, or I'll meditate. And it's like last night was a lot of prayer. It was a lot of prayer. But it's just remembering having faith. Sometimes we see things and we have an idea how they should play out. It doesn't mean things aren't playing out. It doesn't mean things aren't going in the best way for the greatest good of all, because we don't know. So it's just having faith, right? It's trusting and having faith.
And that's great. I'm glad you led right into that because we did have a viewer who asked us to talk about trust. So trusting the process, trusting that things are going to work out for our highest and greatest good. And it doesn't matter whether it's finances or relationships or career or an illness or the nation, the world, what's happening, right? So what would be your insight on trusting the process, or do you have an example of how you've implemented that and held true to it and it worked out?
I would say trust for me, now we'll kind of go a little bit backwards, I think, because I'm going to say when I feel, and it's not necessarily the beliefs of everybody else, but I feel that if I don't have trust in my faith or trust in a relationship or trust in the government or whatever it might be, that I basically don't have trust in myself, because my guidance is going to guide me and tell me what is right and what, it's going to kind of guide me through everything. So it really doesn't matter what's going on outside of me. It's having trust and having that faith within inside. On a daily basis, after losing Jim, trusting and knowing was not easy. It was not easy. There were some days there that, at least for the first month, that it was very not uplifting. Let's just put it that way. But it was a process. It was something I had to go through, and I had to trust and know that I was going to be all right through all this. I had to trust and know that there was a bigger gift being brought to me from this. And this is my circumstance. This is my situation. This is how I perceive everything. And it's actually placed me in a different place. And even still, like trusting and knowing that spirit is energy. It's always here. It never goes anywhere. When we transition from our bodies, we're just shedding a skin. We're dropping a suit. And it's like I had a dream where Jim had come through and he was talking to me, and he stuck his hand in my left hand and he said, "Is that better?" And ever since that dream, now I'm noticing, I recognized it yesterday because I was talking about this, that I feel like more of a peace. So it wasn't just, is that better? It was me, because I've been asking. Like, I want to know why I'm feeling this way. I want to know, I want to trust this whole process. And I kind of just gave up, like, the fights. I wasn't going to fight because of the way I wanted things to go. I wasn't going to fight because there's no time machines that I've been able to log into real quick or anything like that, or a portal I could just jump through, or, just to have some conversations. But it's like I had to trust that process. And right now, I'm telling you, I feel pretty dang good. And I can bring forward how I've gone through this process, that I can help other people so they can understand the process too when they're ready.
Nice. And this, I want to hit on relationships for one, because this was the viewer's request. Is she's been in she was in a relationship several years ago that was abusive, and at that time, during the relationship, I'm going from memory, that during the relationship or shortly thereafter, it was during the relationship that she developed cancer. And working through that process, deciding to leave the relationship because it was abusive, going through her healing process. And now she's in a relationship that it's a questioning, right? After being in a relationship that's abusive, how can I trust myself to be in another relationship? And what I say, what my perspective is that if anything feels good in the time, then do it. You know what abuse feels like. If this person's not abusing you, and we're talking abuse emotionally, mentally, and physically or sexually, all of it's equivalent. And if it feels good to you in the moment, then the relationship's good. That's trusting the inner guidance, your intuition. If the relationship doesn't feel good because you've already been in a relationship that doesn't feel good, and if that comes up for you again, like, oh, your body's tense, or you're getting that gut feeling, or something's off, then the relationship's not good. And to me, it's not a good or a bad, it's an experience. And we get to choose to listen to our inner guidance of, does this feel good or not? This is what Bev and I talk about all the time. Does this relationship feel good or not? Is really what it comes down to. And so it's trusting your intuitive guidance, the confidence you have in yourself to know the difference between whether it feels good or not. To me, that's pretty easy determination. It's sometimes our confidence to either use our voice and say, hey, you creating those boundaries, you're not allowed to treat me this way, and I get to choose whether to stay in this relationship or not. But the other thing is, every encounter that we have, and this is something else Bev and I have talked about countless times, every encounter we have an opportunity to learn from. So you were in an abusive relationship, and you knew that didn't feel good, so you left. You're in another relationship, but because of the history, the baggage that you're bringing forward into the current relationship, you're questioning yourself. The ideal thing is just check in. Am I feeling good in this relationship? If not, then don't stay. I mean, we have these choices. Yeah. And even if this relationship, maybe it started out good and now it's not feeling so good, something seems off, you learned some more about yourself. So this is where we stay in a learning process about ourselves. So even if the relationship doesn't feel good anymore and you decide that this isn't the one anymore, then if you choose to open yourself up to the next relationship, you have 2 relationships, not to mention all the other ones from your history, that you've gained all this information and knowledge about to know what feels good and what does not feel good. And the idea is to move more and more and more into what feels good. And when they don't start feeling good anymore, you have a choice.
It's true.
And in the trusting the process is the learning part, learning that this is what I learned from all these other people, and this is what I know I don't like. So I want to focus on what I do like so I can bring that type of relationship to me. The thing is that when you want to bring that type of relationship to you, then play your part.
Exactly. Don't keep repeating the same pattern in your mind of what you've already experienced, because that's just bringing the past forward.
And if you want that that man who, or woman, whatever, that I'm going to say man because this is a female that requested this, that if you want that man that loves you and is romantic and, you know, says nice things to you and is supportive and helps you around the house, whatever you are desiring in somebody, are those qualities in yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can't be the bitch and attract the amazing man. You can't line up. You're gonna miss each other. You'll miss each other in the grocery store. You could be standing next to each other at the gas pumps, and you would not blend. You would not even meet because your vibration is more on a negative side and guarded and resistance, and men are crap. But I want this amazing man. He's not in your vicinity to attract.
Or perhaps is in your vicinity, but you would never even recognize it because of your energy. Where you're at right now, it'd be right in your face, and you would, but as far as you know, it could be on Mars.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You said a few things. I know somebody that was in I would say, a verbally stifled relationship, and that person didn't make it out of the relationship. That person didn't survive from the cancer. We have to remember, and I don't mean it to be like have to, but take the moment to recognize we're here to feel things. And when we have an experience and we shut ourselves off, we're not allowing ourselves to feel things, which means we're not allowing ourselves to feel everything. Because if we're shutting off, if we're so guarded and shut off on any aspect, we're not allowing the flow of love to flow in because of fear. Fear is stopping it because you're afraid something's going to happen again. But it's like, remember again, trusting the process, like you said, is trusting the process. What are you used to say nuggets? Whatever nuggets you would pull from that situation? You gained information. You survived cancer. You know, there's so much you rose above things that a lot of people can't rise above. So it's like, you know that there's more for you here. And it's like just trusting, and it's trusting yourself. And then you were also saying about, you know, romancing and all this stuff. How are you treating yourself? Like when we're in an abusive relationship, I can speak for myself because I've been in an abusive relationship. It was a one and only. I mean, it was a very toxic, sometimes there was hitting or someone got choked, or, I mean, there was extremes at that time. And that was so many years ago, but it's like, that was my last one. It was my last one, but I can tell you my conversations with myself were crap. Like I was telling myself shit. I was so ugly with myself. There was no way that how could I possibly have brought anybody to me, because I couldn't even see myself as worthy in any of that stuff. And we have to recognize that. I say have to again. We can recognize it. Actually, it's a choice. I could continue going my whole life in that same process and that same mindset and never change, which would be such a tragedy. Because where I'm at right now, I wouldn't have been able to process a lot of this stuff. I wouldn't have been able to have an understanding for a lot of this stuff. And that seems very depressing, really. That seems very, I don't know that would I have survived through something like that. I don't know, because I've gained so much new tools, so much knowledge, and so much trust and faith, and still catching myself. Sometimes I might catch myself saying something bad to myself, like, I don't know, like, what the hell is wrong with your hair, or whatever the conversation can be. But it's like, how can I expect someone else to see me, the true me, if I can't even see me? If I can't even love me, how am I going to attract that? If I can't take myself out on a date, we talk about crazy stuff like that. And the date might be taking a bubble bath with some freaking candles going. It might be listening to some music sitting outside. It might just be sitting outside in a hammock, just relaxing. It's whatever you want to do that makes you happy. It's taking the time for yourself. And then in that process, we learn to trust. And it's not the trust of the situation, it's trusting in ourselves. Because we have this amazing guidance system, this emotional guidance system that kind of guides us along where we need to go, that a lot of times we just don't even pay attention. I mean, I've done that.
Yeah, right.
But this is where I'm at right now. Is it perfect every day? No, but it gets better and better and better every day. Because you slow down enough to notice things. You slow down enough to hear the things, to even hear what you're saying, to hear what you're asking for. And I'm sure you guys have watched me. If you guys have been practicing a lot of stuff, there's things that I say still that I haven't caught, that's probably something that has held me back. It's just little things that we don't even recognize until we start taking the time to pay attention to us. And then everything outside of us, I don't believe that you can be in a great space and attract something that's not great. I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah. for sure. And I want to say, I did this morning and I just cracked myself up. I've been in the present moment a lot of the time. What I have done is for whatever reason, I got out of the habit of looking in the mirror and smiling at myself, even just smiling or saying nice things to myself. I've been saying nice things to myself. Like I'll be sitting at my desk and just be like, oh, this is so amazing. I'm so amazing. I'm really good at this, and compliment myself and celebrate my wins. But this morning I looked in the mirror. I was washing my hands. I looked in the mirror and then I turned and dried my hands and I was like, why are you not smiling at yourself anymore? And it actually stopped last year because of all the emotional roller coaster stuff, right? So I turned around, I looked in the mirror, and I put a big smile on my face. I'm like, you're so beautiful. You're so amazing. And I love your smile. And so, bringing that back up was a moment for me to recognize you have not been looking in the mirror and smiling at yourself for a while. And that was just this morning. So, this is, we come, Bev and I come, and we remind you of this periodically, is that Bev and I are not perfect in our way of being. I don't think there is any perfection in a way of being. It's just being better than you used to be. And the way you treat yourself is the way your relationships will be. So it's important to lift yourself up, nurture yourself, take those bubble baths or go for those walks or do things, whatever, pottery, painting, writing, whatever it might be that lifts you up. And you're bringing the joy into your life. And then what I say is, I can totally enjoy myself by myself. When somebody comes into my experience and shares that moment with me in a joyful way, it's an added bonus. I don't need them to come into my life to lift me up because it's not their job. It's my job. So when it comes to relationships, just remember that if you're depending on somebody else to make you happy or to love you or to make you laugh, it's not their job. It's yours. It's your own responsibility for how you feel. And then the more you bring that joy and lift yourself up, the more miracles happen and things come into your life that you're just like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Gifts are given to you randomly. It's not your birthday, it's not Christmas, not Easter, like just a random day somebody does something nice for you. So those are the things to be aware of. And trusting the process is just trusting that it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out and you're going to be okay.
I agree.
We all might be a little crazy, but we're going to be okay.
Yeah. But that's just perspective, right? It's like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because there's so much to gain. There's just so much to gain. There really is. And we're here to thrive. We're not here just to survive. We're not just survivors, honestly. A lot of us have survived a lot of stuff, and that's good. Pat yourself on the back. You were talking about relying on relationships or something outside of yourself to make you happy. And it's like, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that when we're in a space that we're relying on someone else to make us happy, that we don't appreciate all that stuff as much as possible. I feel like we can't see it in the bigger picture. But when we're trusting the process and we rely on ourselves for our happiness, it's like everything else outside of you see it and appreciate it because you see it for more what it is, not what you're expecting it to be. There's no expectation. You're allowing. And that's the excitement of it, the surprise of everything. It's like you don't know what's going to happen, but it's, oh my gosh, this just happened today. It's like, but if you have expectations, you seem to be let down more often than not. And it doesn't matter what the expectation was. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship. It could be your job. It could be a million things. Maybe expecting a movie to be a certain way or, excellent or whatever. And you're like, what the hell was that I just watched? there's just stuff like that, but it's like it's that expectation. But it's really just being happy within ourselves and then just going through life. It's just like feeling your way through life. And it's paying attention, like we've talked about a million times, it's paying attention to how you feel. And it's like you even just talked about looking in the mirror, like something where along the line dipped, something along the line changed that celebration of yourself. But that's how a lot of times I feel like when we're in relationships, for me, I've noticed or had noticed back then, it's easy not to recognize all the little signs. And then the next thing you know, you haven't been laughing forever. You haven't been, you're just in the momentum of the day, like work and then home and then dinner and then let's start over again, like the, Groundhog Day, going through that process over and over and over again. I just don't feel like that we appreciate things as much. But when we start loving ourselves, which was such a crazy concept for me, because I do love myself. Like if you can't look at yourself and really not look, don't even look at your outer suit. Look at your eyes. Like look into your eyes when you notice yourself in the mirror. You're a beautiful soul. And it's like that's just something to always recognize. And I don't, even when I started going through this process, because you kind of walked us through it a little bit in one of the classes that we had done or that I had been in, it was like it was starting with looking at your eyes. And it's like, how could I look at my eyes and not see my soul? How could I think that my soul was bad? My soul is amazing. Everybody's soul is amazing. If the more we can look at ourselves in the mirror and then see that, the more uplifting. Like love yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, I've told myself that before. It might seem kind of weird at first, but if you're looking at yourself and you're really looking at your soul, you love that soul. You can't, for me, I couldn't feel anything else but love.
Yeah. And I want to just hit upon that. When we're depending on other people to make us happy or to bring that joy to us or to love us, we're saying that the power of our joy or the power of our love is in somebody else's hands. So if I'm bumping around in my life and then Bev comes in, Bev visits me, or we have a phone conversation and we laugh and we have a great moment and I feel really good, I'm giving her the credit for doing that. And I'm saying every time I talk to Bev, she makes me happy. She makes me happy. And the fact is, nobody can make us do anything. Nobody can make us feel a certain way. We allow it. So we have it. Here we go. We have to. It's important that you take that power back and say, I make me happy. Bev just amplified it. Right. And,
Yes.
And so just being aware that when even it's the opposite is true, that, well, that person made me angry, or I get frustrated every time they're around me. And so we're pointing the finger saying they're doing this. You're the one that's making the choice to feel that way. When you're making the choice to point the finger and saying they're doing this to me, whether it's anger or joy, you're saying the power is in their hands, not mine.
It's true. And you point the finger elsewhere.
Outside.
You almost have
Outside.
to wonder, yeah, how much you're taking responsibility, because it's like everything's in our experience because we brought it into our experience. And that sounds kind of crazy for a lot of people. And it doesn't mean that you brought COVID into your experience. It just means that you got into a lower energy that matched up with something else that was a lower energy. It's that simple. I was just reading something last night that somebody was upset because, a lot of people aren't wearing masks and stuff. And it's like, in that situation, you have to trust in yourself and know that you're going to be safe and protected. And even if it is presented into your experience, that your body knows exactly what to do, that you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And then some people, I know a lot of people have passed from it too. So it's like it's part of the process. Maybe that was part of their process. Maybe that, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times that when it's our time, and it doesn't matter what the situation is that takes us into our transition. The thing to look at is it's a homecoming for that person. No matter how we leave here, it's a homecoming for that person. It's a celebration for that person.
Yeah, I had a teacher say that which, you know, it's like we know things, you and I, we know things, but then when we have a conversation, it's a reminder. And it's
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, forgot about that, right? But uh, it was it was when our spirit comes to the earth to take physical form, then our spirit family basically not necessarily as mourning our departure because we're essence, so we're part of us is still there, but it's a sending off, right? Like we're going on a trip when we're leaving and they're saying goodbye to us as we come to earth. And then when and then the people here when we're born are celebrating our birth for the most part, celebrating our birth. So then when we transition, the people here are mourning our departure, but our spirit family is celebrating our return. So it's getting that perspective that and it just feels like I say this so much, but some things you just have to keep repeating until people get it is this life is not permanent. It is temporary.
Let
We know we are born and we know that at some point we are going to go back into spirit. This life is temporary, and in to us as physical beings it seems like a long time for most people if we live past 80 or 90. But to spirit world it's a moment in time, like there's no time, so it's just a moment. And so just recognizing that, trusting the process is we're going to be okay. And if anything, you could take it to the worst case scenario. So let's just stay on that relationship thing. Let's say the relationship does start going in a direction that doesn't feel good. I'm going to give credit that you will have enough information and knowledge and wisdom to know that the relationship is going in a direction that doesn't feel good, and it will not get to such a point where there's abuse involved because you've already been there once or more. I don't know. So you won't let it get that far. And you just say, peace out, bro. I got to go. This isn't working. That's trusting your process. That is trusting that I learned from this, I'm growing, and I'm going to move on. And whether I choose to get into another relationship or not, that's a choice. But definitely increase the relationship with yourself.
and trusting that you made a decision. You know, and that's the thing that I've looked at for myself. Trusting that I made the right decision at the time. It's easy for us to look back and say, oh, I could have done this or should have done this or, whatever. But it's like trusting that you made the right decisions, because when we start doubting our decisions, we start doubting ourselves. And then it's like we're on shaky ground. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has to do with that we're not trusting ourselves. We're not even, we can get into such a space that we can not even knowing where to make the next step, like physically knowing how to make a move forward. That could be the person that's depressed in bed, not leave, just because they so don't trust the process. They so don't trust themselves. And to me, it's trusting of the self. And it is easy to get steered out of that if you allow it. But once you start recognizing it, which is, we're in the school of life here. When you start recognizing it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I just passed that test because I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
It's being all right. And it's like, even if you stayed in it, I have intuition. We all have intuition. And my intuition's told me things before. And it's like, I would stay. Let's see how it plays out. My mom stays, we learn from our parents, they stay in relationships it used to be forever. It was it didn't matter how the relationship was. You got married, that you stayed together forever. And I'm thinking it doesn't have to be that way. That's something where I feel like a lot of the younger generations let us know that it's not necessary. It doesn't have to be that way. And it's not that it's right or wrong. It's another idea. It's another presentation to let you know this is how life can be for you. Nothing's set in stone. And it's like, if you feel like it's not, doesn't feel good, then recognize. And sometimes we don't recognize unless you go out with a friend. Let's say you're in a relationship and things aren't going great and you're not happy at all. And then you go out with some friends and then you find yourself eating dinner and you're laughing, like laughing belly laughs, like such deep laughs. And it's not something to say, oh my God, I miss this so much. It's a reminder, like, this is how life is supposed to feel. It's not supposed to feel the other way, but we feel like we've got to stick it out. We've got to be the perfectionist and make things work. And there's got to be a better way. And it's like, just pay attention to how you feel. Let it guide you. And I would say, even in a relationship, if it was meant to be, you separating from that person is not going to kill the relationship. It's probably going to grow the relationship. It's probably going to enhance everything. It's an opportunity, because it is a huge opportunity. I've learned this myself. You know, when you step away from a relationship, you learn better communication. You learn how to start asking, you know, because a lot of times we think that they're supposed to read our minds, the other person in the relationship. And that goes men and women. I believe it's on both sides. We expect them to read our mind, but we don't tell them. You know, when Jim and I were separate, we were talking about things, and when he would bring up things, we would be talking, having a conversation, and it might trigger something in me. Now I'm pissed off. And he's like, well, I didn't mean to piss you off. And it's like, okay, so this is how I was feeling. You said this, and this is how I felt. And he's like, I didn't mean it that way at all. That's not how it was intended to you at all. And it's like, we don't realize that until we start communicating. When we do that stuff, it actually helps us to get to know ourselves. Because when these conversations would happen, I would see what my trigger was. I would see why I was reacting to this way. And then it would give me a different perspective. And then it's like, you just start getting easier on yourself. And then you start being easier on everybody else that's around you, with not having these expectations, not expecting someone to read your mind, not expecting them to be the one to make you happy. When we have this communication, it's so huge. Like, I would never have thought that it was that big, but it really is that big. It's that big, because it's not just about you having a better relationship with them. It's about a better relationship with yourself. Because sometimes we haven't put these words out in the open, like, well, this is how I felt. Because a lot of times we don't do that, and we don't realize, but at that same moment, we're stuffing. By not discussing it and talking about it right this moment, or expressing yourselves, you're stuffing. Sometimes being like a child is like awesome, because what happens if something doesn't go their way? They're going to have a temper tantrum, but it's over quick. They don't freaking hold on to it for days. They're not holding on to it probably even 10 minutes or 15 minutes later. Usually they're past it, unless we've said, you need to go sit in there and think about what you did wrong. No, just allow the process. They cry. They'll cry for some reason because they didn't get what they want. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all right. Those are expressing emotions.
Right. And then we tell them to stuff their emotions because they're not allowed to cry and do that.
Exactly. Put your big girl pants on. We don't cry. You're a big boy. Big boys don't cry. Yeah. No, it's all right. It's all right to cry. It's all right to share your emotions. We just learn how to constructively feel those emotions and share those emotions.
Yep. And teaching a child to move that emotional energy in a healthy way. So a temper tantrum, if they need to lay on the floor and kick and scream, how many times have you felt like doing that? I know I've stood in a room and clenched my fist and screamed as loud as I could because I was so upset. And we just we were taught, so we taught our kids to stuff those emotions and just suck it up. Also, when I want to hit on what you were talking about, when we question ourselves in our decisions and then there's doubt, that also affects our self-confidence.
Yeah.
And self-confidence is something to build upon, especially when you're listening to that inner guidance, knowing what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Trusting that inner guidance, but that comes along with the self-confidence. You're doubting yourself because prior relationships didn't work out. So a thought could be, oh, this relationship's too good to be true, or relationships always end up turning badly, or because you're basing the information on previous knowledge. But if you use that knowledge in a way to guide you in your decisions now, because you know the difference, then you can trust your decisions. And if you feel like you've severed the relationship to move on because it doesn't feel good. Like Bev was saying, there's been many stories of where people have separated. They're still married. Some have been divorced, but they separate, and then they actually get closer because they have that space in between to have those conversations. They feel safer um, with that distance. Maybe it's just on the phone, that they feel safer to speak how they really feel, or speak about how they interpreted the interactions when they were married, when they were in the same household. And there's been many people, because of that, have come back together even stronger in their relationship. So it's just trusting the process either way. Either the relationship served its purpose and you learned from it and now you're going to move on, or you've created a distance to be able to share your emotional interpretations of the experiences, and it brings you closer and the relationship goes on. So it's like, it's trusting that everything happens for a reason. A lot of people, that's a trigger for them, and they're just like, screw you, that's not true, whatever, that's okay. That's what I live by, is that everything's happens for a reason. When I'm in a moment that's getting me knocked off my balance, and I'm like, what the hell, I call in Archangel Uriel and I just ask, please help me remember that everything's happening for a reason and it's happening for my highest and greatest good. And asking for that guidance, asking for that help, asking for the reminders, because I'm still practicing too. And I still get knocked off my little pedestal once in a while about how wonderful life is. And it gets my attention. And I'm like, okay, I need a reminder that everything is happening for a reason and it's happening for my highest and greatest good. And then I go into that learning space, like learning, like, okay, keep your awareness on alert of what are you learning through this process. Because as long as I'm in that space of learning about myself, valuing the situation, taking what knowledge I can take that's going to help me grow, then I can't go into a victim mode. I'm not going to, or if I do, it's just going to be a dip and I won't stay in a victim mode. There are times when I need to have that temper tantrum for a moment in time, whether I'm like 5 minutes. This is how I'm feeling. This is the way I'm seeing it. And I'm pissed and whatever, yell and scream. And then there is value in the situation. What are you learning? Then it becomes knowledge. And then I implement that knowledge. And now I'm very wise. I have more wisdom. And that wisdom is what Bev and I bring to share. Continue.
You were talking, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just a continuous practice.
It is.
And it doesn't matter what teacher you talk to, they are still practicing too. Every single one of them.
Every moment's really. What I was going to say, you kind of touched on a little bit. It's because I was talking to a psychic because I was bringing my cats to where I'm living at now. And I was wanting to see how we want to integrate them, or what their needs are, making sure they're going to be able to be okay with these dogs. And I learned different stuff, but it's like Jim had come through and he said that he realized that I needed space, that he realized I needed, and that's a huge thing, because you were just talking about getting some space, and sometimes getting that space from the relationship isn't always about divorce. It's not always about separation. Sometimes maybe you just need to go take a break, and a break might be, go stay with a friend, go for a weekend, to be gone. It's a way for us to find our center, to get back to ourselves. I think that a lot of times we don't realize how much when we're in somebody else's energy, we can't, if you're not focused on your energy, you can kind of almost lose yourself in someone else's energy. Because it's easy for me, I feel like it's easy to focus on someone else's energy, especially when you're in it full time, like that all the time, and you kind of lose yourself a little bit. So it's just like hitting the reset button. It's just going out and hitting the reset button. And it's like, an instance would be like, maybe I don't have worries about money, but maybe my husband's worrying about money, right? So now that concern can kind of drift over to you, or you can start feeling that. Or if you're around people that maybe they're, and I don't even care. You don't have to even discuss it, but if there's like a desire there and you're like in a lower energy, you kind of get locked into that place a little bit. So, and it's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's because we're learning. This is all a learning process. I've been saying be easy on yourself. I've been being easy on myself. Like look at the journey, and we talk about the homecoming when they're transitioning from here. It can be a celebration here. But I did a celebration of life. Was I in the celebratory mood? Was I in that process yet? No, I wasn't. I was wanting to celebrate for everybody else. But it's like, and it's knowing that my grieving and my stuff it wasn't even about Jim. It was really my stuff. It was paying attention to myself enough to that this is my stuff. These are my, I didn't have control over how he left. There's a million different things. I didn't get to finish, there wasn't a completion, but there is, because I can still have these conversations with him. I can still feel that there's been a resolution. There's just so much. It is the process for me. The grieving part was, I think we talked about it, and I don't know, it was like the death of the old person. I'm no longer that person any longer. I'm no longer the wife of, or, my position changed. So it's like a death of an old, but doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. That means, holy crap, I got new beginnings. I've got like all these new experiences to have with someone, with my mom, my brother, and Jim they're all non-physical. But I get to celebrate all this stuff now. I can't even tell you how many times they pop into my head. I get like all of a sudden lately, I'm gonna call my mom. Oh, it wasn't, but I recognized as soon as I said I'm gonna call my mom, this desire, it wasn't that I didn't look at it as like, oh my God, I'm missing my mom. No, my mom is with me right here, right now. There's no other reason why she just popped into my head, because she's been gone for, I think, 5 years now. Gone. And that's the thing, I don't even know the time exactly that she passed anymore. I don't know the time exactly that my brother passed anymore, because that's not about their existence. That's not about who that person is. I kind of strayed off a bit, but
That's okay.
it just kind of went into another feeling area. But it's just paying attention and being okay.
Here's a visual aid. So when you said, you have two people come together and now they're into each other's energy and
Oh, yeah.
Right. So here's the visual aid. So if you're listening to this, you're not getting the visual, but you're like over here, right? And the other person's over here, and you're on that energetic attraction. So you move towards each other through dating and yada yada yada, and then the marriage, and you move in together and all that, and it's this.
It really is. It can be.
And then the other thought was, how cats crack me up. A cat will just be walking along all nonchalant in their ease, and then just have a freak out moment. And recently it's been that video on Facebook where the cat's walking along and then it gets on that little carpet and it just balls it all up and then sits there. Just like, that's kind of like the blending of most relationships, because there's still some little bit of craziness going on each other's vibration, and so then you blend that together and it's just like
So taking the time, and that was really what my point was. It's just taking that time. It's really creating that separation.
Yeah, they create space. So like you said, go on vacation separately or do something to go take a breath out of each other's energy.
Yeah.
Then come back, right? So
go on a retreat. There's like so many different retreats, and there's so many different things that you can go do that helps you. Or sometimes you just want to go to a place, rent a cabin or something that's quiet, or maybe a friend's got a place that you can go stay in that there's nobody at. It's a huge reset. It's very important. It's very important. And that's why meditation's so important. We've talked about a lot of different things. Meditation is important. It really does give you that. It's like a little mini holiday. Yeah. And you can take them anytime. You can take them instead of before. My example would be before I'd wake up in the middle of the night, it's like, God, and look at the clock, and it's like, oh man, I only have this much more time to sleep, or whatever. Now it's like every time I wake up, it's an opportunity. I can either pray or I can meditate every single time.
Yeah.
And to me, the more you meditate, the more things are presented to you, the more you hear things. I asked a question the other night about something that I couldn't tell you what the question is now. But then I heard a voice say, it was a man's voice, and he says, Luis says yes. So he answered my question. It was the craziest thing. But and I say crazy because it's not in my normal experience every day. It was crazy wonderful. It was wonderful. It's awesome that I'm starting to recognize that I can hear things, that I can see things, that I can smell. Smells have popped up a lot recently too. It's like, holy crap, I just smelled like a powdery perfume. You know, the old perfumes that smell like powder. I don't know who smells like that, but it came to me, and it was like, okay, so maybe someone that I know is, nearby, or someone has passed recently and I don't know about it yet. But it's just been, there's been different stuff, and that's that slowing down. That slowing down helps us to recognize all the things that have always been around us. I'm not unique from anybody else as far as gifts go. I'm not. We all have this ability. Most of us, 50 something years of my life, no, I'm 50 now, but so many years of my life, I was not in that space of being able to slow down enough to hear it at all, to even slow down to listen.
Yep. Because we're in that survival mode, trudging through the life.
Yeah.
So really, my friends, trust the process, learn as you go, take notes so you can make better decisions when things come up that are similar. We're all okay. We're all
Be
okay.
easy.
We're going to
Yeah,
get
be
through
easy.
this. So with that, I have to say, I'm going to bring this to a close as I have a somewhat of an obligation to go do and be in service. So we want to thank you for being here. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. We're here every week. And if you want to contact us, then right now we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, is Amie and Bev. And we have a group, it's Amie and Bev Community. And then there's email, amieandbev@gmail.com. So I want to thank you for taking your time to listen to us, to be with us. We just hope that we are bringing information forward that's going to help you on your journey. And we'd love to hear from you. So if there's a topic that you want us to have a conversation about, bring it forward. We don't know. We're not mind readers. We're working on our psychic abilities, but there's a lot of energy around us. So
Yes.
Leave us some comments or share these videos with people that you think would benefit from the information. And this is a way you can support us as well by spreading our wisdom, because we are so wise. I think so anyway. It's my story. All right, my friends, have a great week. We'll see you next week.
That's right. And celebrate you.